What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Gary, and in this episode of Coding with the Force, I'm going to show you how to use a Lightning Web Component in a list view button. Alright guys, so today we're going to go over how to use a Lightning Web Component in a list view button. If you didn't know, this isn't like something that is easily figured out, I guess. It's not that hard to do, but it's not something that Salesforce just shows you an easy path forward for. And there's really no good documentation on how to do this. When I was trying to figure this out, it took a lot of experimentation. So if you didn't know, if you want to create a new list view button to potentially run your own custom logic against a list view, or just, to execute something from within a list view, the only way to do that is to go to Buttons, Links, and Actions, create a new button or link, and create a list view button, or denote this as a list view button. And when you're in here creating a list view button, you only have a few options for how to create that list view button. You use a URL, which is what we're going to use, and it's going to really save the day here. An on-click JavaScript, which does not work in Lightning Experience, or a Visual Force page, which I would personally prefer to never have to write again if I can, get away with it. So we're going to be using the URL content source, and we'll get back to how that works in a little bit. But basically, we're going to use it to redirect in one way or another to the Lightning Web Component that we are building. So, where do we go next? I think the next thing we should do is just build the Lightning Web Component and figure out how this all ties together. I'm going to show you 3 different ways to do this. 2 ways that, to my knowledge, cannot support passing selected items in a list view to the Lightning Web Component, and then 1 that will support that functionality. So the last one I'll show you is the one that will support that functionality. They'll all go pretty quick though. None of them are hard to set up, just hard to figure out if you've never tried it. So the first thing that we're going to do is create a new Lightning Web Component, and we'll just call it a list view component. Sure. Or actually, why don't we just call it list view button? Doesn't really matter. And I'm going to mark this as exposed. If you're not using IntelliJ and you're using Visual Studio Code, I don't believe that you get this option. Don't worry about it. I'll show you how to set this up in the metadata file. If you want to know how to use IntelliJ and Illuminated Cloud, I have a video showing you how to set up this IDE to use it for Salesforce, so go check it out. It's just a few minutes to figure out how to set it up. Alright, so we've got our Lightning Web Component. The first thing that we're going to do is head over to the metadata of that Lightning Web Component. Make sure that that is exposed is set to true, right? I think by default this gets set to false. It might not even get filled out. I don't know. I'm so used to working in an Illuminated Cloud and having that option that I forget anymore. The next thing that we're going to do is fill out our targets. So I'm going to use, for this first example, an app page, which is your Lightning App Builder app page. And I'm just going to create a button that says Lightning button, has a label of return to list view, and an on-click of whatever, close, I don't know. And close that off. And then over here in the JavaScript, real quick, I'm just going to grab some JavaScript that I've written for another one that works to push us back to our list view. Are there other ways? Maybe, but this is the best way I've found to do it that's consistent and doesn't break in certain scenarios. So this close button, or this close method that our lightning button is going to call on click, basically takes a look at what our browser Windows history is and goes back one page. I know that some people would prefer to not do it this way. I've tried to use navigation mix-in to do the same thing, but it really provides inconsistent results, especially for the app builder page that I'm about to show you, the app page that I'm about to show you, and for flows when you do this, because they technically get iframed in. So this seems to work in any scenario if you want to close and go back to your prior list view without any problem navigating back to where you were. I've done a bunch of experimentation. This seems to be the most non-buggy code I could find to get this done. But I'm happy for somebody to give me an alternative if you can find one. So basically, this basically just gives you the ability to go back in history, and it also gives you a little bit of time to make this happen, right? If I didn't do this set timeout, it could fail to go back, but it seems with a 1 second timeout here for this function that it handles itself fine. I haven't run into any problems yet. Okay, so this close function is a way to get back to your old list view that you were at. It will work in all 3 of the setups that I'm about to show you. And it is the most consistent way that I have found in my experimentation with about 15 different ideas to get this done. All right, so we've got our Lightning web component. Very simple. It's just got a button that'll get me back to my old list view. And this Lightning app page is not a valid target. That makes sense. Is it? I must have spelled it wrong. Let's go back here. Yeah, I forgot the N in Lightning. Cool. So this first one that we are going to do after it saves here in just a second is creating a Lightning app builder page. Pretty simple, nothing super crazy. This thing would save. There we go. And then we're going to use this new button to basically link out to our Lightning app page. So we're going to find our object, whatever that is. For me, that's contact. So you'd go to the object manager, search for contact or whatever your object is. And we are going to create, well, actually I'm ahead of myself here. I was going to create a button. But first we need to make an app builder page, or an app page. So let's go do that and go to Lightning app builder in setup, and create a new Lightning app builder page. And we're just going to create a regular app page, not a home page or record page or embedded service or anything like that. And we'll call this list view app page. And we'll just give it one region. You can change that up if you want. Make it as many regions as you'd like, but I'm just keeping it simple for now. So we're going to grab a list view button and drop that in here, and you can see this is, oh boy, this is my component. It just has return to list view in it, and we will hit save and activate it. So it's going to pop up an activation page. I am going to pick my sales app and add this to my sales app page. Technically, actually, let me just say I don't have to add it to anything. So I can just save this, finish, and I'll show you how to pop this up. So the first thing that I want to do is grab the, go back to Lightning App Builder, and grab the name, the developer name of this app page that I just created. And this is important because it's going to be how we navigate to that component, basically. Actually, let me show you how you get this URL normally, so that I'm not just telling you something, I'm kind of showing you how I figured this out. So if I actually added this, if I go back into the application and I actually do add it to the sales app and I save it, and I now go to my sales application, we can see that list view app page is here. Now up here in the URL, I know it's probably hard to read. I'm not really sure how to zoom in on a URL, but at the end of it, there's a lightning /in/list view app page, which is basically the URL to your specific app page that you just set up. Grab this portion of the URL, come back over here to setup and go to Object Manager, find your object that you care about. For me, that's contact. Then go to buttons, links, and actions and create a new button or a link. Then we're going to create a list view button, and we're going to make sure that it displays an existing window without sidebar or header. And we're going to keep it on URL. We'll call this list view app page. And then in here, we're just going to drop that URL in with an extra slash. And really, that's it. I'm going to save this, and it's going to inform me that this is a useless button unless I add it to the list view. So the way that you add this button to a list view, if you didn't know, is you go to Search Layouts for Salesforce Classic, find your list view, edit it, and go down here and drop in list view app page. I'm going to remove this one so it doesn't confuse everybody. This is one I made just to demo things and make sure I didn't waste too much of your time showing you this stuff. So now I've added this list view button to my contact list view. So if I go to my contacts and I refresh this page, there's now a button called list view app page, and if I click it, it should redirect me to the list view app page that we looked at. And if we click this return to list view button, it should return us to our recently viewed list. Or the upside of the way that I've done this is if I wanted to click this button from here and click list view app page, I can return to list view, and it's actually going to take me back to birthdays this month. The actual list that I was last looking at. One of the downsides to using an alternative method to traversing back to your last list view or last page is that like I said, I've experimented with a lot of things. For some reason, Navigation Mixin doesn't want to go back to the right list view that I denote, I suppose, and it just kind of fails and goes to recently viewed. But this one never seems to fail. It goes back to where I want to go. So one thing that you'll notice, though, right, is that if I do a Lightning App Builder page, I get this header. There are ways I've found to get this header to go away through some HTML or some CSS overrides, but ultimately it's adding a bunch of junk that you don't want to add to a page just to remove this header. There's no way to just inherently get rid of this without some work. So if you don't want this header hanging around, then don't go with an app page. I showed you this one first because it's probably my least favorite, but it is a way to get this done, and I want to show you all the ways, I guess. All the ways I found. So you have your options if you want them. Now there's another way to do this without the header that's also super simple. So I'm going to show you this next way. It's only going to take a couple minutes here, and it's just through the use of tabs. So if I went to tabs in setup, so I go to setup, home, tabs, and I scroll down, there is an area called Lightning Component Tabs. So the first thing I need to do really quick before I use this Lightning Component Tabs is update my targets. I need to add another target, and I need to add Lightning, I think it's just tab, but let me double check that. Yep, it's Lightning tab. So you'll need to add the target Lightning tab if you want to use your Lightning Web Component in just a regular Lightning Component tab. And I didn't save that, so I'm going to save this. And once that's saved, you'll see it becomes selectable in the tabs area here. So we'll go to Lightning Component Tabs, create a new tab, and grab this list view button component that we've made. We'll just call it list view button, and pick balls. It's my favorite one. Sorry. I'm just a child. Anyway, and I'll set it to default off. You can actually turn this to tab hidden too if you'd prefer nobody see it, but I want to show you something else. Just basically show you how you get the URL for this tab if you're interested, so that you can put that URL in your button that we're going to create in just a second. So now I can look for list view button, right? Which is the name of the tab that I just created. I called it list view button. And up here, yet again, you'll see in the URL there's lightning/in/list view button. So we'll grab that. We'll go back over to setup object manager and find our object again. So contact, create another button. We'll call it, let's see, list view tab button, and we want it to be a list button. We want to make sure that it displays an existing window without a sidebar or header, and we're just going to drop that URL in here just like we did last time, and that's it. The last thing that we're going to do is, of course, add this button to the list view. So we're going to go over here, edit it, grab the list view tab button, and save it. And now if we go back to our contacts, and I hard refresh this page again, there should be a list view tab button. And if I click on that, you'll notice it opens up, but there's no header anymore. So if you don't want that header that comes with app pages, that can be pretty irritating when you're trying to set up your own custom UI, then go with a tab, right? Super easy to set up, works the same. It's actually the only one of these three options that doesn't technically present itself in like a iframe, so it doesn't like embed itself in the page. It actually just pops a new tab, and the other two do, unless that's changed. At least whenever I was messing with this about 6 months ago, they were, when I was inspecting the page, they ended up in iframes. This one doesn't do that, so it's a little faster to load, and this is the fastest loading option, and it, it's nice, pops in its own tab. Yeah, and then you can see it works just like the other one. Since, technically it's the same code at the moment, I don't need to go over that, but it'll go back to your list view that you care about. All right, so the last option that I want to go over is the use of a flow. And the only reason that you should use a flow for this scenario is if you want to do the following. So if I was looking at my contacts and I wanted to select them in the list view and then pass them to my Lightning Web Component. The only way that I've found to be able to do this in my experimentation is through the use of a flow. So if you don't need to do this, my suggestion would be to use a Lightning tab. It's considerably faster to load. And you don't have to have a flow for no reason. But if you do need to grab the IDs of these contacts you've selected so that you can operate on them, then the use of a flow is basically mandatory, at least in my experience. So let's check out how this works. So we're going to go to Setup, go to Flow, and create a flow. Actually, before we create our flow, let's update our component so that it's prepared to take the input of the flow. So in our Lightning Web Component, the first thing we're going to do is come back over here to the JavaScript. And we are going to import API up here because we need some basically publicly accessible variables for our flow to send data to. And we're going to say add API list view IDs or something along those lines. And then over here, we're going to do target config, and the targets will be need to update this actually. Target should be flow page, I'm pretty sure, but let me double check that. Flow screen. Can never remember. Flow screen. And then for target config, I want the flow screen to be here. And let me just double check myself. Right. I'll grab this property and bring it in here. And inside that target config, we're going to create a property. And that property is going to have its name be the same as the API accessible variable that we want to push the data into. And the type is going to be the data type that we expect to receive from the flow. So we're basically going to get an array of strings from the flow. So we'll want to make that the type an array of string. And just to show that the list view IDs do show up, we're just going to create a paragraph that says this is the, or actually rather, these are the list view IDs passed, and just add list view IDs, just like that. Cool, so now our Lightning Web Component, with very little effort, is prepped to be able to receive this. By the way, you know, if you're only making this for a tab or an app page or a screen flow, then you don't need to, you know, create a target for each one. Just create the target for the one that you care about, right? Depending on what you'd like to do. All right, so we've got our component now prepped for being used in a screen flow, or a flow in general, but a screen flow more specifically. And we're going to now come back over to Salesforce and create a new flow. And we're going to create a screen flow. So we'll hit next. You can use whatever you want. I prefer to use freeform. And I'm just going to drop a screen on here and do a couple things. The first thing is I don't want this footer. It's not useful, and at least for what I'm trying to do. And I don't want to show the header either because it's just adding UI stuff that I don't really want. So I'm going to drop my list view button component on here that I've prepped to, do what I want to do. And I'm going to just say, call this list view button. And I'm going to create a new variable to grab the incoming IDs. So our variable, you've got to make sure that you call this IDs. The API name must be all lowercase IDs. It's case sensitive. It will care about it. If you change this variable name, you will not get the IDs of the things in the list view. So make sure to leave that as IDs. Data type is text. You want to allow multiple values because what you're going to get is an incoming collection or an array of data, of strings. And you want to make it available for input. And hit done. And we also need to give our screen a label, so we'll just call this list view button screen, and that ought to do it, I think. Now we'll just connect our start, the start of our screen flow to the actual screen here, and we'll hit save. And what should we call this? List view flow, button flow. And I'm going to grab this API name because I'm going to need it here in a minute. And we are going to activate this. All right. So we've got this activated. We've got our flow set up. We've got our component set up. So let's go back to our object again. So go to Object Manager, find your object. Let's create one last button or link, or rather one last list view button, and we'll call this list view button flow. And create a list button. Make sure it also displays an existing window without sidebar or header. It's a URL. And this one, I'm forgetting the format for. So let me see if I still have this filled out. Okay, it's just flow / list view button with IDs. Flow, and then, all right, so let me explain this. The format of this is just /flow because this is a flow, and then /list _ view _ button _ flow. Basically, this is the API name of the flow that you just created, which is why I copied that value just a minute ago. And that's all you're going to need for this. We're just going to save this again and hit OK. And one last time, we're going to go to Search Layouts, and we are going to go to List View, hit Edit, add our List View button flow, and now we'll go into our contacts page again, open it up. I'm going to select all of these IDs here and go to List View button flow. And as long as I set everything up, you can see how much slower this is to load, right? It took a couple seconds there as opposed to almost no time at all. And you can see it loaded in those IDs. How far this goes, I don't know. But basically, it's going to hold 18 IDs in it. So you can see we passed those list view IDs that we selected into the actual component, and it received them, and everything is good. And if we hit return, we get back in here. So those are the three options to use a Lightning Web Component and a list view button. Like I said, app page is probably my least favorite. It's faster to load than a flow, but it's quite a bit slower than a tab. See, the tab took like 1/10 of a second or something. I don't know. It was very quick. And then last but not least, there is the flow, which is absolutely the slowest one to load, especially if you pass IDs. But it will allow you to pass list view IDs to it and allow you to manipulate whatever it is you want with those IDs. So if you need it, that's the best way to do it. And that is it, I think. I hope I haven't missed anything. I spent way too long figuring this out, so hopefully this helps other people out there. I do want to give a shout out real quick to the Salesforce Exchange Discord wiki. This is what gave me hope. This article right here that was written up by them. I was on the verge of giving up on my ideas of making this dream happen, and then I read this article, and it does considerably different things than what I've suggested you do. I suppose it really just shows you how to set up a flow to deal with this situation, but the use of the URL button got me started on the path. So thank you to the Salesforce Exchange Discord. Also, you know, I'm not like getting paid to be affiliated with them or anything, but it's a great server if you want to learn interesting stuff or need help with development. I'm in there. Lots of other people are very smart people. So yeah, that is it. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe. If you want to know about all the things I'm doing and exactly when I upload the next video, click the bell. Otherwise, you might miss something cool, I guess, if you really like, you know, Salesforce development as much as me anyway. And yeah, make sure to go over to the community and vote on next week's video. Don't miss out. You get to choose what I do next, so choose. So you get to see what you want to see. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.